We're recording, so there you guys go.
Okay, welcome everybody. It's on.
Yep.
Okay, Mike, you want to go ahead and get started?
Yes. So to introduce myself, my name is Michael Wade. I am an Assistant Scoutmaster for Troop 175, and I have also been the course director for NYLT the last 2 years and been involved in that for, what was it, 14, 15 years now at this point. So been around a few times. Mr. Cameron?
Yeah, Don Cameron. I'm part of the training committee, and I had the privilege of being Scoutmaster for NYLT for 9 years. So the subject is something that is very important. It's very important in youth leadership. And this is one of the big things that we taught when we were doing NYLT. So I think it's something that is important to incorporate into your unit training when you're doing your introduction to youth leadership. This is an important facet of leadership as far as scouting is concerned. And so we wanted to present it to you so that you have something to work with when you're doing your training at the unit level.
And at any point, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to either type it in the chat or just unmute yourself and go ahead and step in. We're more than happy to answer any questions.
Oh, chat. Found it.
Yes. All right, so to start off here, is anyone familiar with the term servant leadership? Anybody heard that before? Okay, so it's a term that's gone around in Scouts. I'm sure you've heard it, hopefully, at least. That is the form of leadership that we should all be using as leaders. So to give you a quick explanation of the two types of leadership we want to talk about, it's autocratic and servant leadership. Kevin, if you get the slide for us, please. Thank you. So autocratic leadership is the one, that's the big boss, right? That leader is going to make all the decisions and is not going to get any input from the group. So it's my way or the highway, right? So kind of think of, I'm sure you've had those kind of leaders in your experience at this point. So we're not gonna hang on that one too long. We're gonna talk about servant leadership. So some of the behaviors of the servant leader are they're supportive, right? They care about their group. They're the servant to their group. It's not the autocratic leader where it's my way or the highway, right? So they're gonna put their group first, and they're gonna be focused on the growth of their group, and ultimately they're gonna pull the group towards their goals, not their own goals. So as you can see here in this symbol, they're gonna pull the group up the mountain as opposed to just climbing up the mountain on their own.
Okay, most people start out in not thinking about being a leader. They just want to help. You know, the volunteers are a good example of that. You get involved, you want to help the group, you want to have things get better. So you start out with that desire to serve. As you go along, you realize that the best way to serve is to be a leader. And so as Mike has just said, what we want to impose upon people is that your job as a servant leader is to make sure that everybody that you are leading are able to follow you and come on up the hill along with us and be successful. If the people that you are leading are not successful, you will not be a successful leader.
Right. So one of the ideas of the servant leader is to empower others. So what this means is a big term is delegation. So some people think that delegation is just getting other people to do your job, right? So you can just sit there and sit on your chair and do nothing. But it means more than that. What you're doing is you're allowing the group to grow. So if you're having someone else go out and build the fire, someone else to go out and cook, you're building those skills up in that individual as opposed to just doing it yourself. And that is ultimately going to strengthen the overall group because other individuals are going to gain skills as well. So that is allowing others to develop their own skills. And then that also may empower them to along towards their goals along the process.
Okay, if your actions inspire others to dream, this is the next slide, to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, you are a leader. That is a definition that was written by John Quincy Adams. So if you stop and you look at it, you know, are you inspiring your scouts to dream about what they can do? Are you helping them do more? Are you helping them become more? Then you are a leader. And that's the thing that we have to teach the boys, the SPLs and the PLs, that they must take this challenge or this activity and relate that down to the troop and to the patrols. So one of the things we used to hear is in the big boss theory was that the general would be telling everybody what to do, and the old saying was that it all rolls downhill, and that everybody will get in line, and when the big boss says jump, everybody says how high and jumps. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and it's the servant leader. The Army refers to it as the Army of One.
So yes, in the Army of One, it goes back to that big boss there that we talked about right at the beginning of the presentation, right? Everything rolled downhill, and as Mr. Cameron said, when they said jump, you said how high, right? So they said do this, and you did that. You weren't able to question or have any input into the decision or the thought process. So now it's changed to, as you have all probably heard the ads at some point, the Army of One.
Okay, what that refers to is that every soldier is important, that every soldier has a job, that we have to make sure that every soldier is part of the team, and that we do everything to help them to do their job correctly. The same thing holds true with the patrol. It is important that we look out for each and every patrol member. If the patrol members are not on board, you're not going to have the enthusiasm and the activities that you're looking for. They have to be willing to participate, and you need to help them participate in order to have a successful program. If they're not participating, you don't have a troop. If you don't have a troop, nothing is going to go someplace. So everybody has to be aboard.
So there are 10 ideals that we like to talk about when we talk about servant leadership. So the first ideal is about being a good listener. Now, when you talk about listening, it's important that you listen to the group and you listen to what's said and also what's not said.
Okay, remember the old adage that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen twice as much as we speak.
The next point, it's empathy. So you're going to try to understand where someone else is coming from or picture yourself in their shoes.
Okay, you want to know how they feel. What do they think about it? What is their impression of what we're trying to do? And how do they feel about that? So that you can get yourself in that position to be in their shoes.
The next point is healing. So you're going to try to help the group or an individual feel better in a tough situation.
The biggest thing is to talk to them. Listen to what they've got to say. Ask them questions. You're not directing, you're not telling, you're asking. How do you feel about that? How do you think that will work? How have you got any suggestions of how we can do this? Get them involved. That's what we're trying to do.
The next one is awareness. So you're going to be tuned into the needs of others and their own need for growth.
What you're going to be doing is stand back and watch a little bit. Don't be out in front, be in the back. Watch what's going on. And those that aren't following, give them a hand, pull them up and say, hey, come on. You know, you can't just sit here like a bump on a log. We need you to participate. If you're not participating, then you're going to find that the result, the program that is put together may not be to your liking. So we want you to be part of it. You've got to participate in the planning part of it as well.
The next point is persuasion. So servant leaders seek to convince others, not force them.
Okay, and this kind of goes along with what we were just talking about, the healing, the empathy. and the awareness, if you're doing that and you're talking to them and you're getting them involved, you will be in effect persuading without sit there and hammering on them. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. You know, ask them to do it and ask them to be part of it.
Next up is conceptualization. So dream great dreams, think past day to day.
Yeah, you know, what's your future? One of the things we talk about is vision. And what is the definition of vision? Vision is what the future looks like, okay? And we got to see ourselves in that. So this is what part of it is. We get them to look and see themselves doing the things that we're talking about doing. Therefore, they can conceive it because they can see it.
The next point is foresight. So understanding lessons from the past and present to understand consequences of decisions.
Okay, here's where we get into the scout law. You know, one of the things that's been taught is if you're going to do something, look at the scout law and how does it fit in? Does the scout law say that this is a good thing, that this is something you should be doing? Then do it, okay? You have to look ahead. You go, oh, you don't want to get into that situation where you go, oh, geez, we shouldn't have done that. No, think it through. Think about it before you speak or before you take action.
The next point up is stewardship. So careful and responsible as you manage things entrusted to you.
Remember the first point of the scout law, be trustworthy. That says it all.
The next point is growth. People have a value beyond just being workers. So focus on the group or focus on the growth of the individual.
Okay, again, this comes in at taking the vision, finding out what everybody's vision is so that when you're doing this, you can see how the group is coming together because now all of the visions are interrelated to get to this final goal. So that's what you want to emphasize.
The last point, it's community. Create a community that supports all members of the group.
Okay, in this day and age, I'm sure you've all heard it. You're not out there by yourself. We're all in this together. That's community. That's the same idea that you want to promote when you're talking about putting your patrols together, putting your troop together, and having a successful program.
So now that we've talked about these 10 points, how do you think about how this fits into scouting? What two things do we say, most of us say at the beginning of every troop meeting? Right, the scout oath and the scout law. So as I'm talking, think about the scout oath and the scout law. Think about those 12 points and what you say in the scout oath, and just think, how does that all tie into those 10 points we just talked about? You'll find that quite a few of the things that you say in those two things is going back to those 10 points.
Yeah, remember, live the scout oath and the scout law. That will give you the guidance that you need and make sure that you take the right path to go down. One of the things that we want to talk about is, as we get into this a little bit more, I think is pointed out by a situation that I ran into years ago. I went to a troop meeting to see there was going to be a presentation. One of the adult leaders had won an award, a very important award. And so they were going to have the ceremony. So I went to the troop meeting to see this presentation. Well, when I got there, they had all the visitors go sit in one place. So I knew the scoutmaster's name, but I really didn't know the gentleman. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting ready. And all of a sudden there's a youth that gets up there and calls the troop meeting to attention. It was the senior patrol leader. And they went through an agenda and they did the things that they would normally do. They talked about an upcoming camp out. They had somebody come in from a sporting goods store, talk about equipment, so on and so forth. They broke and they did their patrol meetings. And then finally the senior patrol leader said, and we have a special event tonight. We're going to do this presentation. There were several people from region and so on that were there. He introduced the speakers. They came up. They all talked about the award, the gentleman that was getting it, so on and so forth. And they presented the award. And then when that was over with, then the senior patrol leader said, it's time for the Scoutmaster's Minute. And so from the back of the room, with all the rest of the adults, one gentleman came forward, and he was the Scoutmaster, and he gave a very short, a very enlightening thought to think about. And then the troop meeting was adjourned. That's what we mean by a boy-led troop. That's what we're trying to get to. That's what we're trying to teach these boys. And in that particular case, it was all rehearsed. Everybody knew what they were doing. And the Scoutmaster had very few words to say. It was the boys' troop. So
Okay.
another thing that you can look at when you're doing this type of situation is, like, you're going to class and there's a new student, and the new student is lost, and you see them dazed, and you don't have a lot of time, but take the time to introduce yourself to that student and to point them in the right direction. That's being a servant. It's that simple. Somebody needs help. You see that they got a problem, give them direction. Okay. Another situation, we talked about delegation. Let's say that the troop has been invited to do a flag ceremony for some special event. Well, it's easy for the SPL to stand up there and give the commands and so on and so forth. But maybe one of the patrol leaders has been a little bit shy about getting out in front. So bring him up there, give him the opportunity, let him grow along with the program by being the person that can help and do things and build some self-confidence in doing the thing. So that, again, is another example of servant leadership. Okay. You're going to find that you will come in contact with leaders all through your life. Mike, you want to go through that?
So let's talk about some leaders that we come into contact with here. So the first leader that a lot of us ever came in contact with in our lives was our parents, right? So as a small child, we kind of looked up to them, and they essentially led us along the way. Next one we probably came into contact with was a teacher, kindergarten teacher, preschool teacher, whichever. But they taught you the way, and they taught you more and built on what your parents talked about. Another one, maybe it was a religious leader of a pastor, a priest, whatever religion you may be. They taught you life lessons as well, and how to become a better person. And then at some point, maybe some of us came in, or any of us joined the armed forces, a military leader. So all of these people in our lives were leaders and led us a particular way and taught us a particular set of skills. Throughout your life, you're going to come into contact with a lot of different people that are going to be a leader, maybe a boss at work. There's a lot of different people you're going to come into contact with. And each of them are going to have a different style and a different ultimate goal that you're trying to reach with your group.
So when you're looking at this, then we're talking about how does that relate to scouting? Well, we have a lot of leaders in scouting. Scouting is about developing leadership. That is one of the main aims of scouting, is develop leadership. Okay, and so we're going to look at the senior patrol leader, the patrol leader. We're going to look at how the Scoutmaster intertwines with those individuals. And we're not going to forget about the scribe, the historian, and the quartermaster, because those are leadership positions as well. And we want them to be servant leaders along with the rest of the group. So every person needs to be on the same page. All leaders have to want to work together as a team. Okay, team building becomes very, very important in being a good leader. And if you go through your introduction to leadership, you'll find that there's a lot of activities in there so that everybody gets the idea and helps build your team as you progress. So we're going to move on to the role of the Scoutmaster, the adults, and the senior patrol leader. We're going to look at it in the perspective of the PLC, Mike.
Yes, so for PLC meetings, the role of the senior patrol leader is pretty large on these meetings. So the first point is that they're the leader of the meeting. So this is the senior patrol leader's meeting to run. So on that, they should have an agenda for the meeting. So they should have an agenda of what needs to get accomplished, maybe plan the troop meeting, maybe plan the next outing, make sure that whoever's coming in to do the skills instruction, if somebody from REI, if it's an adult, whoever it may be, that they're ready and that they're actually coming to the meeting. And then ultimately receive input from the patrol leaders for the troop. So it is the role of the patrol leader we're going to talk about in a minute to bring ideas from their patrols to the PLC meeting. So the senior patrol leader needs to take that information and incorporate it into the troop.
Okay, one of the biggest and most important parts of that PLC meeting is to have an agenda. Okay, you want the senior patrol leader to be the leader of the meeting. So you really don't want the scoutmaster sitting next to him and feeding him, say this, do this, do that type of thing. You want the senior patrol leader to be in charge. So it's important for him to put together an agenda and make sure that he sends the agenda to the patrol leaders and to the scoutmaster, preferably with enough lead time that he can call the scoutmaster a few days before the PLC meeting and go over the agenda so that the senior patrol leader and the scoutmaster are on the same page, so that the scoutmaster does not have to be stepping up and interrupting the senior patrol leader. It gives him more confidence. It gives him the opportunity to lead the meeting and to interact with the patrol leaders, and the patrol leaders will have some information to know what they need to bring to the meeting so that they can interact. Okay, so that agenda is a very, very important part of that overall program.
The next position I'm going to talk about is the patrol leader's role. So like I mentioned a moment ago, the most important part of the patrol leader is to present ideas from his patrol to the PLC. So whether it be ideas for outings, what they want to do at the next camp out, any ideas for the troop meeting, things along that nature needs to get brought up. But then you're also going to take information from the senior patrol leader back to the patrols. So if a good example of that is have something prepared for the next meeting, or that we're going to be doing opening assembly at the next meeting, things like that from the PLC needs to be taken back to the patrol so that it can be disseminated the correct way.
Okay, the patrol leader is really a conduit. He's a conduit between his patrol and his SPL. He is the one that brings the ideas to the meeting, so he has to talk to his patrol. He has to know what questions are going to be asked, so he has time to talk to his patrol. And then, as Mike just said, he has to be able to bring the decisions and the program back to the patrol so that he can work it over with the patrol and everybody knows exactly what they're going to be doing. Whether they're going to have a special part of the next troop meeting or whether it's the camp out, and everybody needs to know what they're doing. So it's very, very important that the patrol leader learns to talk to the people above him, the SPL, and needs to talk to all the people that he is leading, his patrol. He is the servant. He is the one that is going back and forth between the two groups and making sure that everybody is on the same page.
So the next role is the adults. So the adults in this meeting need to sit on the sideline. So it was just talked about that the scoutmaster needs to review ahead of time. That's a big one. But ultimately, you're going to sit on the sideline in a chair and not have any active part in the meeting. You're there to step in if they're doing something illegal against the scout law, against the Guide to Safe Scouting, something along that line. Not necessarily that you don't like where they're going camping, right? You're there to keep them safe and only step in if necessary.
Okay, remember, you don't want any surprises. You don't want to be interrupting the SPL. That's why it is suggested that you not necessarily sit right next to him. And this all has to be done by the fact that the SPL is going to put together an agenda and he's going to send it to the scoutmaster so that they can then get on the telephone and say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to do. This is the suggestions that I have to lay out and talk to the patrols about. And then at that point, if the scoutmaster has got some objection or if he has something to add, that all needs to be worked out before the meeting starts, so that when the senior patrol leader sits down to run his meeting, he can have the confidence that he knows what he has to do. He knows that he has the support of the scoutmaster. He knows that he is the one in charge and that he can run the meeting properly. Okay, so that is very, very important as far as the SPL being able to run that meeting properly.
So the next element is the troop meeting. So for the senior patrol leader, ultimately it's, again, his meeting to run. So he's going to take that plan that he developed with the PLC and run the meeting for the plan.
Okay, one of the things when you go through and you do your PLC, you should be filling out, there's a form that we can use. It's in your program features, and it's a 7-step program. That should be filled out at the PLC, because when this SPL gets up there to run that troop meeting, you want to make sure that it runs smoothly, that everybody knows what they're going to do and how much time they have to do it in. You want to make sure that you're looking at your overall program and that it's going to run approximately an hour. An hour is a good time. Nobody gets restless. Nobody gets tired. You should be able to get through the points of the meeting, get it done, and get out of there within an hour. You can have 10, 15 minutes leadway on either side of that, but that's what you should be shooting for, okay? One of the reasons a lot of people leave scouting is because they get bored. So if you've got a meeting that just rambles on and on and on and on and nothing gets done, nothing gets accomplished, people are not going to want to come to the meetings. So plan them ahead of time, have an agenda, and follow your agenda.
Next up for the troop meeting is the patrol leader. So the patrol leader's job at a troop meeting is to run the patrol meeting that you're having during the troop meeting. That's one of the 7 steps that you just mentioned. And then also to lead your patrol during the inter-patrol activity. So if you got to come up with a plan, if you've got to work together as a group, that's where that leadership is really going to get developed.
Okay, going through that and whatever the program is going to have out there that the patrol is going to do, the patrol leader doesn't necessarily have to lead it. He can have one of the other guys in the patrol lead it. Remember, he's the captain. He can designate different people to do different things to get them aboard, to keep them active. And he can be nothing more than a cheerleader for his group to make sure that they are doing and participating and trying to win whatever the contest is at that particular point of the troop meeting. So the big thing with the patrol leader is to get involved with his patrol, learn what his patrol wants, know his people, know what they want to do, know what they're capable of doing, and help them to be the best that they can be. I know that's an old phrase, but it works.
So now we've talked about the senior patrol leader and the patrol leader who are running their individual meetings. Let's take a look at the scoutmaster and adults.
Okay, your assistant scoutmasters can be helping the patrols. Patrols have a tendency to want to goof around and not get things done. Having an assistant scoutmaster standing nearby, he has developed the relationship. Just the fact that he is there will help the meeting progress so that the patrol gets things done. If the patrol leader's got a problem, he's got somebody right there to talk to ask for help. If there's a problem within the thing, there's somebody there that can give advice. So that is an important part for the assistant scoutmasters, is to stay around the patrols and become an advisor to that patrol, a mentor to that patrol, develop that relationship. The scoutmaster is going to have relationships with all of his assistant scoutmasters. And he's going to concentrate specifically, he or she, excuse me, I've been saying he all the time, and we do have a lot of female scoutmasters, so I do apologize. I'm old, I'm in a rut, I apologize. But you do want to talk to the scoutmasters, the assistant scoutmasters. Make sure that you guys are all on the same team, all right? That all people are pulling in the same direction, and that you're helping your patrols, and the patrol scoutmasters helping the senior patrol, and maybe some of the other people that report directly to the senior patrol leader, like the assistant senior patrols, and some of the other people, the quartermaster, the troop guide, etc. Those people are very important. They work with the SPL. Look at your org chart and break that down and see who's reporting to who, and make sure that all of the groups are working together to accomplish the same goal.
So let's take a quick run through the patrol meetings and just run through these real quick and hit a few key points. So the senior patrol leader during the patrol meeting is there as almost like a mentor, like the scoutmaster in the other meetings, where he's there to help the patrol leaders if needed. Whether that be getting the flow of ideas, just maybe asking or answering a clarification question, something like that. So not too much in this situation. Now the patrol leaders, on the other hand, it's their responsibility to run their patrol meetings for their patrols. So just like the PLC, they need to have an agenda, and they need to get those ideas from the PLC meeting to their patrols, and then get feedback from the PLC or from their patrol and bring it back to the PLC. And that's the key to the patrol meeting.
Okay, as far as the servant leadership is concerned, the SPL should have the agenda set up already. The SPL will, let's see, we should be on the slide. There's one that says troop meeting. We just pretty much got through that, and then the patrol meeting was after that, with the role of the adults. You got, there you go, that one, okay. That's basically what we're talking about right now. The relationship with the scoutmaster with the SPL, and the scoutmaster with the other assistant scoutmasters that are helping the patrols for assistance, so that everybody is getting together. Okay. Let's see, I think we're down to, we've covered that. I'm trying to find out where we're at, Mike. I kind of got lost.
We're on mentoring and coaching.
There you go. Okay.
So
Go ahead, Mike.
So a key to all of this process is the mentoring and coaching that us as adult leaders are going to do with the scouts. So we want to put them in a position to succeed. So the first point is to ensure that the plan was developed and carried out correctly. So help them come up with that plan and then empower them to carry out that plan. I like to say that let them stub their toe but not break their foot. So in other words, a little bit of learning, but learning the hard way a little bit, but don't let them go too far. So it's not going to be the end of the world if someone eats burnt pancakes, right? They're going to eat the burnt pancake, and they're probably going to cook the pancakes better the next time, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Sometimes a little bit of tough love is okay. Just don't let it go too far. You don't want to get them too discouraged. And the other key word again is empowerment. So let them do it. Let them carry it out. If you set the expectation, they're going to meet it. I'm a firm believer in that, because that's what I like to do when I was a youth leader as well. I loved when I was given that opportunity. Wasn't always perfect, but that's where you're going to learn. You're going to learn by doing. So first is talk directly to the SPL. It bugs me sometimes when adults yell out to the entire group of youth. Talk to that SPL and have the SPL carry out whatever needs to get done. Build that empowerment and build that skill set. If you're talking to the whole group, you're going to diminish that ability of the SPL to lead the group. And like I said, allow that SPL to carry out the plan. They came up with a plan, let them run it. And remember, it's boy led. right? So again, let them do it. But be there as an advisor when they need it. If you see something going wrong, pull that SPL to the side real quick for a minute or two and just kind of nudge them in a direction, or if they need to have a question answered. That's what you're there for. And again, behind the scenes. And ultimately, build the confidence in the scouts. Again, let them go. So let's talk about the PLC meeting here. Hopefully everyone's troop is actually having PLC meetings. It's one of the most important parts of the whole process of running a troop. This meeting is run by the PLC again. And this, again, like I just said, what is the most important part of this whole process. This is where the planning for the entire troop takes place. The weekly troop meetings. The annual plan is done by the PLC. That's a whole separate topic, but it gets done here. And then you plan those events from the annual plan. So each monthly outing gets planned by the PLC ultimately. So this is where ideas get shared. Again, it comes from the patrol and it goes to the PLC, and the patrol leader gets those ideas from his patrol or her patrol. And it's a two-way flow of ideas. So it goes from the PLC to the patrol, and then it goes from the patrol to the PLC. So it's a flow. It was mentioned earlier that it's a conduit. And again, that information flows both ways.
Okay, we keep talking about the plan and making sure you have agendas and so on and so forth. All of this stuff goes back to that annual plan. Like Mike says, that's a totally different subject, so we haven't covered most of it. But every troop should have a 12-month plan. Okay, so your PLC meetings know exactly where they're at and which meeting they're working on. The PLC should be working at least 2 months in advance of where you're actually at when they're doing the planning, so that everybody knows where it's at. So when it's time to do something, an activity for an individual month, that was already planned out at least a month in advance. Everybody knows what they're doing, what they should be doing, and so on and so forth. That's the purpose of the PLC meeting, is to make sure that all of the things are lined up as they need to be lined up. You know, do we have the drivers? Do we have the gear? Does everybody know what they're doing? Is everybody qualified for whatever it is that we're doing? So on and so forth. This is where the Scoutmaster steps in as the advisor and oversees this and looks at this and looks at the state of the whole troop and knows whether everybody is prepared or not. Okay. That's what the purpose of this PLC meeting is to make sure that we plan well enough in advance that everybody can be ready, so that when it is time to go, we are good to go. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. So it goes back to the SPL and patrol leader should be prepared for the meeting. We all heard that phrase, be prepared, before, right? Hopefully. Okay. So if the SPLs requested the patrol leader to have information for the PLC, the patrol leader should have that information ready to go back to the PLC, because otherwise nothing's going to get done. This is how I hear a lot, and unfortunately in my own troop, sometimes this happens where we get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. But the patrol leaders don't sometimes get that information from the patrols to come back, and the SPLs kind of beating their head against the wall trying to get some fresh ideas, because one person can only come up with so many ideas, right? Not that that's wrong, but at some point you need something fresh, and you've got 30 scouts in your troop. You should be able to come up with at least a few fresh ideas if the patrol leader is doing their job and getting that information from their patrol members.
Okay, so again, the role of the Scoutmaster is to help the SPL so that they can get the job done. Remember, they're not going to be perfect. I've heard before, well, we don't have an SPL because I don't have anybody that's old enough or is experienced enough or whatever. That's a bunch of bull. Get the kids up there, have an election, get him elected or her elected, and then you as the Scoutmaster work with that individual to make them ready, show them how to do things. let them have some freedom, teach them, mentor them, put them out there, let them do it. Like Mike said, let them stub their toes. They will learn more by stubbing their toe than they will anything else. Okay. You will be amazed, if you're not already, how much these youth can do. If you give them the opportunity and you give them the guidance and you have them work together and develop a team, they can turn the world around if you give them the chance to do that. That is what your function is as part of this. The boys are out front. The boys are learning how to be servant leaders. They're taking care of each other. They're making sure that nobody gets left behind. They're helping pull everybody up the hill together. That's what it's all about. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So, does anybody have any questions? Please feel free to either put it in the chat or reach out. Bob, go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to talk. Feel free to.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Dave Hook from Troop 258. So we are a very small troop, you know, out at the Elks Lodge in Joliet, and we just got 4 brand new scouts. So really, we only have 7 active scouts. So we got 4 brand new crossovers. My son's the SPL, and he's only going to be 13 years old. And then we have 2 other scouts, one 14 and one 12. And then we do have an older Eagle Scout, but he really is not involved anymore. But so, like, what you guys been talking about, how is it maybe different with a smaller, younger troop like this?
Well, the biggest thing is, you don't have enough people to have all the different layers. So you look at it, basically what you've got is a good patrol. All right. So you can have the boy, and you've already done it, is going to be called the SPL. He's going to act as the SPL. But the patrol is going to be like on a PLC meeting. The patrol itself is going to be, they're going to take the place. Each one of them will be comparable to a patrol leader. Okay. So that you'll have a patrol leader, but everybody's going to go to the PLC meeting. You've only got a small number of people. Your PLC will not be overrun. Everybody expresses their ideas and you put them together. You still go through the same thing. The big thing is that you want to be teaching the ones that you've had elected or nominated as senior patrol leader, whatever. You want them to understand what their role is, that they need to talk to the other boys to get them involved, to become part of the whole thing. That's where you're going to get that experience by doing that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's kind of pretty much what we're doing, where we just, you know, for ideas for the camp outs or activities, it's basically, you know, the SPL just kind of facilitating, hey, what do you guys want to do here? You know, what campground or what camp out you want to do here? You know, it was the same for when they decided when they wanted what summer camp we were supposed to go to this year. We were gonna, you know, and now that's all canceled. So now, and we've been having Zoom meetings the last couple, you know, month or so.
Yeah.
Because we had just got these 4 new AOLs crossed over. We had like 2 or 3 regular troop meetings and then the shutdown. And so now we've been trying to keep them, at least we're almost all done with scout rank, because that's what we're doing on the Zoom meetings, at least.
Well,
you
yeah,
know, and then that, yeah.
That's a great idea. And you know, I was not familiar with Zoom until just recently either, as we've been forced into this situation. But as long as you got the boys talking to each other and communicating with each other and making some plans, and you can do those types of things on Zoom. I know a lot of the different units are doing different programs, but they're using the Zoom to get there. The only thing we can do is that we can keep our fingers crossed that in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we can get to the point where we'll get to the governor's phase 3, at least, so that we can get out and we can start doing things at least by patrols, if
Yeah.
not by troops. And we're looking at things, we're planning things. I've already set up a shooting sports program where we can offer the shooting sports merit badges on a daily basis. We got different days. I set up a schedule. If they want to do rifle, shotgun, whatever, we can accommodate that type of thing. That's assuming we get to the point where we can go out and have groups of 10 and meet. We will be ready to do that
Yeah.
come the middle of June. So we'll see
Now-
where we're at. We plan ahead, get stuff set out. It's always
Yeah.
a little bit of a disappointment if you have to cancel something, but it's better to get something out there instead of say, oh, we can do this now. What are we going
Right.
to do? You know.
Now,
Maybe
with
sitting on
that,
the
Don, you were
back-
saying, is that on the council website to register for that already? Your shooting
I
sports
just,
merit badge?
it's not all approved. I just came up with all this stuff this week. The outdoor meeting will be this coming Wednesday. I've sent copies to Alexi, to Ted, and to Jerry, and it will come up at the meeting. Hopefully we can get it all approved and get it out on the website ASAP.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. My
Yeah.
other question is, since there's no summer camp, there's going to be no NYLT. Will then it be next year then at RSR as well?
Mike can
NYL
handle that one.
NYLT, the date has not been formally approved, but we're looking at 2 weekends in December.
In December?
In December, we'll be inside.
Okay. So it'll be like a cabin camping thing?
Essentially, yes. We're still working out the details and waiting to get it approved, but that's what it's looking like.
Oh, that'll be cool
Yeah,
then. Okay, because my
doing
son
two-
was going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, doing 2 weekends is something that has been available. We at Rainbow have not chosen to do that. We've stuck with the week-long program. Many other councils do the 2 weekends. Because of this situation, we don't want to miss the opportunity to have the boys go through that program because it is, I'm biased, I know, but I think it's one of the better programs that we got to develop leadership, and the boys really learn stuff. So we don't want to lose the opportunity of have boys go through that. So Mike's working on doing it in like during Christmas break,
Yep.
where they got a couple of weeks over.
Good.
They're going to try to get that scheduled so that they can come in and do it on 2-3 day slots and still get the same thing done. And the only difference would be that, you know, they'll be camping in the building behind Mike, if you can see it.
Right here.
He's got the learning center behind him. The training center, the learning center, the council office, all of those things, the dining hall, all of those places will be worked into it so that they will not be out in the weather, because we never know what December might be. It
Yeah.
might be
Yeah, for all we know, it's going to be
63 or-
65 and sunny. So
Yeah, exactly. You never know. You never know. But we're looking at that as well.
right. Bob, it looks like you've got a question.
Yes, I don't know if it's a question or more of a statement. First, Mike and Don, thanks so much for this class. I think you bring really good, important information that reinforces that outdoor leadership instruction that's taught. And sometimes people need refreshers, all of us. And, with what you're saying, basically, is just like, Laura Baden-Powell said, the patrol method is the only method in scouting. And the statement that I wanted to make is, some of the leadership training that I've had in the past, you got to break things down in 2 ways. Managers or managing comes into where you manage things or processes, and leadership is where you manage people. And in this case, our things that we manage in scouting is the patrol method, the process of patrol method, to make sure that the scouts understand that. And we lead from behind in that as ASMs and scoutmasters. And then we allow them to lead the people, which are the boys leading the boys. So in the situations with like Troop 444, right now I kind of oversee some of the instruction there, and I oversee the as an ASM, I oversee the troop guides. And what we've been doing with the virtual situation that we're in is I have 5 guides with 2 new patrols, and it's important to organize those new patrols so they feel like they're doing stuff. So about every 10 days, other than group email communication, I have a mentoring meeting with the troop guides, and we've broken down those guides to actually oversee out of they have 3 or 4 specific scouts that they're mentoring of the new scouts. So they personally are responsible for keeping in touch with them and that, kind of breaking it down a little smaller. But they also go ahead and 3 scouts oversee a patrol that's a little larger. And then I have 2 troop guides that oversee a smaller patrol. And what I like to see is just what you said. I talk to them before they have a patrol or a patrol corners meeting, or I talk to them about what their agenda is with guiding the new patrol leader, establishing that new flag, that scout yell. And I like to see what their agenda is, that and how they are going to transition with each other in a Zoom meeting so that they're not talking over each other and not looking like they've coordinated. It seems to like they feel a lot better. We've had some success with one of the patrols very well. And obviously it's a little tougher situation meeting this way. The other patrol's a little larger, but because of the mentoring behind the scenes that go on with the troop guides, it's very successful. And a couple of them kind of wasn't trying to meet up, and they kind of learned their lesson because they had a patrol corners, and one of them didn't even make it to the meeting, and the other one was kind of stuttering because he didn't know what to do. And I kind of let him feel that a little bit of pain because it was only a 10-15 minute patrol corner for 15 minutes, but I think they learned from those mistakes. But mentoring from behind and them understanding this process of patrol method, once they understand that process that's being managed, that allows them more time to lead and have fun with the scouting activities we're doing.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic program. You're getting it done. You know, the introduction to youth leadership. I'll get it out of my mouth here in a second. You're going through those steps, and you know, whether you're doing that as a part of a Zoom program or whatever, it works because you're working with the boys, and then you're having the boys take it and do their own thing, so that you're in effect you're teaching and then implementing at the same time, so that when you do get a chance to go out, you guys are going to be ready to do that, and that's what it's all about. So whatever you can do to get the boys in a position where they're acting as a group, they're a cohesive group, a team. You know, sometimes when you got a big troop and you got 4 or 5 patrols, it's hard to make sure that everybody is satisfied and working in the same direction. So a little bit smaller group, it allows you to go out and do that the way you've gotten it broken down. Everybody's learning at a different level, but each group is learning at their level, which makes it easy. Everybody stays in tune, gives everybody a chance to come together hopefully soon and exercise everything that they know. And I think you're going to be very successful with that. So good.
Well, thank
good
you.
job.
I seen one of our other assistant scoutmasters coordinate a patrol meeting that we were in on Zoom, and he had behind the scenes worked with the patrol leader. It's an older patrol, so they don't have a troop guide, and he helped them coordinate a game for them that they did. It was like a scavenger hunt that they did out of the scout book, where they had to find things in the scavenger hunt, and it was just nice. I mean, the agenda was basically just to meet, touch base, see how everyone's doing in the Zoom meeting, have some fun, but with a purpose behind that, that they were learning. What I'd like to do is this meeting, this Zoom meeting recorded and this class recorded today, because what I'd like to do is be able to take that in the next mentoring meeting that I have with the troop guides on Zoom, is to share that with them so that they can watch that, because I think it's a lot of good information for them.
Yeah, Kevin did record it, and it will be available.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
What about you, Sarah? You got any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Don. Appreciate everything.
All right, Kevin, if you could put up the summary real quick so I can run through a couple final thoughts here. So to summarize our presentation here in just a few lines. So it's important to empower the youth leaders to run the event. And again, if you let them go, they will rise to the opportunity. Adults need to be on the sidelines as much as possible. So if you need to talk to your SPL, if you need to talk to the group, make sure you go through that SPL. If you're able to lead, if you are able to lead as a servant leader, you're going to set the example for your group, right? So just remember that. Remember what we just talked about. A leader empowers others to achieve their goals. Remember, you're serving the group, not the other way around. And remember, autocratic versus servant. Autocratic is the big boss where it's my way or the highway. That's not what we want. We as individuals want to be servant leaders and also teach the scouts to be servants. All right? So, any other questions? All right.
Okay, thank you all for joining us. Hope you got a lot out of it and enjoyed it, that we weren't too boring. And hopefully we can get together outside at camp soon.
All right. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Hey, Mike, congrats on your scout who made Eagle, too.
Yes, thank you.
Great
That's great.
class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for running this, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. See you guys soon, I hope.
Yep.
Bye-bye.